Welcome back to the Bodice channel. In today's class, we'll learn how to make this lovely asymmetric neckline dress with ruffle sleeve and pencil sleeve. The combination of puff ruffle sleeve and pencil sleeve, and it's really beautiful and simple to make. This is something you like to learn. Kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so in order to simplify this tutorial, I'm going to make a regular bodice first before I adapt it to a mono strap. Okay, so for those that don't know how I normally fold the fabric, it's just a regular waist that is not a bustier. So I'm going to be folding the front and back together. So to fold this, I'll first fold my fabric into two like this, so you can see. Then after folding into two, I'm going to fold again into four. So now when I'm folding into four, I'm not going to fold completely like this because there's going to be a zipper allowance. So now I'm going to leave 1 inch for that zipper allowance, which is here, which means that this here is going to be the back. This open part, the two part that we have here, is going to be the back, while the closed part here is going to be the front. I hope you understand that. So quickly, we are going to draft our basic bodice. So the shoulder I'm working with is 7 inches. That's 14 divided by 2. So I have 7 inches there. I'm going to go down by 1 inch from my shoulder slope. So the tentative neckline that we're going to be working with is 3 inches by, let's say, 2 inches. We are still going to modify that. So I'm just leaving it as it is like that. I don't want it too low so that it's not going to influence the decision that I'm going to be making later. So now from the starting point, I'm going to mark my armhole line, and then my waist is 17, so I made it 18 inches because of hemming allowance. So now on this armhole line, I'm marking my bust measurement. 40 divided by 4 is 10, and then I'm going to have just 1 or 1.5 inches seam allowance to it. Then here on my waist, the waist is 28 divided by 4 is 7, so I have 7 here. I'm adding 1 inch for my dart, and then 1.5 inches for my seam allowance. Then I'm going to connect that together. Okay, so after connecting that, I'll take my curve ruler and mark my armhole line as well. So this is just something that we'll do normally. So from there, I'm going to connect my shoulder slope and then cut this out. So it is that simple. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut them now. So this is what I have. So I'm going to go and join this on the machine. So I'll place it like this, right side facing right side. I'm going to join it on the shoulder as well as the side seam. Join the shoulder, join the side seam, and then I'm going to hold my dart. Remember I added 1 inch seam, 1 inch dart. Okay, so for the dart, all you just need to do is divide your bust span. That's nipple to nipple by 2. For me, that's 4 inches, 8 divided by 2. So once I have the 4 inches now, I'm going to mark the length of my dart, and then I'm going to make that into a straight line. Okay, so from there I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides. Remember we added 1 inch for that allowance. So after marking 1/2 inch on both sides, I'm going to hold this dart. So to make it easy, you can bring your back so that you can notch where the dart point is going to be, so that you'll not be confused when you get to your sewing machine. So go straight to the sewing machine now, and then we'll work on the dart. So I just want to take them together so that I can notch my dart point. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it. You can see that the shoulder is joined together now, as well as the side, and you can see that my darts have been held. So this is the front dart and this is the back dart. So the zipper allowance, I just held it together with pin so that I can shape the neckline. So now the next thing is for us to shape the neckline. So to shape this neckline, I'm aligning it like this. I just held the shoulder together. Remember, it's not ironed yet, so I want everything straightened out like this. So you need to choose the side that you want to have the shoulder. Remember, it's a one shoulder blouse, so you choose the side you want to have the shoulder and the side that you want for your off shoulder. Okay, so after deciding that, now you're going to mark that side. Okay, so now the side with shoulder is not going to start from the shoulder exactly as well. The sleeve is what is going to make up for the loss that you may have there to make it a complete shoulder dress. So depending on how low you want it to be, from my shoulder here, you can see at this tip here, I'm going to go down by 2 inches. Okay, so after going down by 2 inches, now you're going to take your curved ruler and then connect from these 2 inches all the way to the lower part of your other armhole. Okay, that's where you have your armhole line. So I'm just going to hold that part with a pin as well, because I don't want it to be folding like that. So that's where we are connecting to. We are connecting from here all the way to that side using our curved ruler. So I'm just going to take it in bits because my ruler cannot take it all at once. And then when you're connecting this, you have to be mindful of your center front. So you can see my center front line here. So you want to measure the depth that you want to go for, because you don't want to expose your bust. Remember, we have already taken 2 inches out, so now for me 7 inches is still fine. Okay, 7 inches is not going to expose too much. So when I'm connecting, I'll make sure that I have this in mind. Once you go below this, your breast may be poking out, and you don't want that. So you can see me using this as my guideline. So the first one, I connected it like this, and then from there I'm going to connect to my underarm like that for the off shoulder part. Okay, so now I hope you can see this visibly. This is the shape that I have. From the 2 inches that I went down, I connected to my center front. That's the center front depth. And then from there, now I connected it to the underarm of this side. So now after connecting like this, next thing is to take your scissors now, and then you are going to cut this shape out. So we are cutting the front and back together. So after cutting it, this is what I have. Okay, so this is the exact shape that I'm going for. So you can use your lining to turn this, but I'm just going to cut out a facing for mine. You can also use your bias to turn it. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fix my facing to it. Okay, so I thought my camera was recording. Facing is just like cutting a smaller version of a lining. So you can see we've used it to turn it out. So you just place your neckline on your fresh fabric, cut out the neckline, and then you trace it out just like we have it here, so that we can use it to turn the rough edges. So I'm here to iron it. That's why I'm still holding it together with a pin. So you can see the neckline is neat now. Both the front and the back neckline is neat. So this is the bodice. The next thing now is to move straight to the sleeve. So for the sleeve, is like a puff ruffle sleeve. It has a pencil sleeve and a puff sleeve on top of it. So I have my fabric folded like this. So now, depending on how puffy you want your sleeve to be, and then the puff part, we're going to be gathering it majorly to the 2 inches that we removed. Remember, we removed 2 inches here. So in order to make up this for these 2 inches, we have to have excess here on our ruffled part. So depending on how much ruffle you want around there, you can multiply these 2 inches by 3, and then that's going to give you 6 or more. So I think I'm going to be doing more. I'm just going to make mine around, so I'm making mine around 7 to 8 inches like this. So you can make that into a straight line. This is just like a guide. So we are going to be pleating all of this or gathering it. So now you can now bring in your bodice to trace out the armhole that you're working with from here. Okay, so now from here, now you can trace out the, remember 2 inches is already gone from here, so we have this left of the one with the shoulder. So now I'm just placing it like this, and then I'm going to trace out the armhole, and this is just going to be the seam allowance that I need. So now you can now blend it in like this. So I'm going to cut this out. Okay, so this is going to be the ruffled part, and then I'm going to notch it. So now on the if you check very well, you'll notice that the ruffled part, that's the puff part, has like Canadian smoking, like picking here and there. So you can just highball it and pick it, or you can just rule some lines. So it's just going to be like a guideline for you, or you can just pick it at some point and then you tack it so that it can give you some form of ruffle. You can see what I'm doing like that. Okay, so I'm gonna need to rule my lines like this, just to serve as a guideline. So vertically I used 6 inches because I don't want it too ruffled. So I used 6 inches interval vertically, and then I ruled it like this, and then horizontally I used 5 inches. So I have a box of 5 inches by 6 inches. So at every point where my box intersects like this, I'm going to go ahead now and pick it, okay, to give me that ruffle that I was talking about. So everywhere it intercepts, I'm going to go ahead now and pick it, then bring it back for us to continue. Okay, so I've gone ahead to pick it. You can see now I just tacked it with my machine at that point, and this is what it looks like on the right side. Okay, so I forgot to mention the length that I worked with for this. Remember how we got the width? I measured 8 inches, then used the rest of the armhole to create that armhole line. And then for the length, I want the ruffle to stop around my elbow area. Okay, so the elbow that I'm working with is around 12 inches, so I added around 3-4 inches extra to make it puff out. So now I'm going to use this basic sleeve to control it. You can also cut just your lower part and then gather it, but I just prefer to use this so that I can conceal all of these rough edges. So I have my basic sleeve like this. So what I'm going to do now is to measure that point where I want the puff to stop, which in this case is my elbow. So now I'm going to take this now and measure my elbow of 12 inches. Okay, so after measuring my elbow of 12 inches, I'm going to mark this straight line. Okay, so now remember, this is the head of our sleeve, this is the upper part. This lower part here, now I'm going to gather it into this elbow points like this. So I'm going to gather everything to fit into what I have here. So after gathering it, I'm going to flip this over to sew to the head of the sleeve. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it like this. So now I'm going to flip this, and then I'll match the rest of the armhole first. I'll match it together like this. You can hold it with your pin. And then I'm going to match this other side as well. And then the excess that I have, I'm going to gather it to the head of this sleeve, which should be the 2 inches that we went down with. Remember, we went down by 2 inches when we wanted to shape the neckline. So 2 inches and 2 inches for the front, 2 inches for the back should leave you with around 4 inches, which is what we have here. So now this head of the sleeve that I have here, I'm going to go ahead and gather it on this part. I hope you understand this. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to put your sleeve together like this, and then you measure the 2 inches downwards. So after measuring the 2 inches downwards, then you will be able to know where the gathering will be. It can extend beyond the 2 inches. In my own case, I'm going to extend it by a bit. I want my gathering to still get to around this upper part area. So now I can increase it by 1 inch, which leaves me with 3 inches. So when I'm gathering this now, I'm going to leave this to be straight, and then I'm going to gather from here all the way to this other side as well. So I have like 6 inches of gathers. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So I've gone ahead to gather it. You can see where my gathers are, and you can see the ones without gathers. So the next thing is to bring in your bodice, and then you go over to the sewing machine and sew the one without gathers to this sleeve part. Okay, so I'm just going to place, remember I extended this by 1 inch for my gathers to reach a little bit of this place. So now I'm going to go ahead now and sew it like this, and then sew the other side to the other side as well. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it. You can see we have an excess. Let me arrange it so that we can see this. Okay, so now you can see the 2 inches that we left upwards that we cut off when we were shaping this. So you can see that we have exactly 2 inches here for both the front and back. So now you are going to exempt that before you fix your sleeve. And you can see that I have a little gathering here before I have the ones without gathering on both sides. So now the sleeve is fixed now, and this is what the bodice is looking like. So after fixing the sleeve, I went ahead to close the underarm area and then hem it on the lower part. So this is the pencil part of the sleeve, and this is the ruffle puff part of the sleeve. So if you want your ruffle bigger than this, remember I measured 8 inches before shaping it. You can measure up to 10, 12, depending on how big you want yours to be. So now the last thing to do now is to cover up these rough edges. So to do this now, you're going to use a bias, or you can cut out your actual fabric also to cover this up. So now you're going to take your bias, sew it round now, and then flip it over like this. Okay, so you can now use your hand to tack it, or you use your hemming glue to gum it down so that it's not going to show on the rough side, on the right side. Okay, so I'm just going to fold this in now and then top stitch on it a little bit so that we can take it to the mannequin. Okay, so like I was explaining, you can see that I've gone ahead to cut out a small piece of fabric here, and then I sew it. So once you sew it and then you flip it over, it's going to make this upper part, you can see the upper part where we get, it's going to make it neat. So you can put your hemming glue here and then iron it down, or you can just tack it, or you can sew on it. So if you sew on it and it's showing, there is a trimming there, so the trimming is just going to cover the seam line for you if you don't want the seam line to be visible. So I'm just pinning this down. Okay, I'm pinning it to the basic sleeve. Remember there's a basic sleeve underneath it, so I'm pinning it down to the basic sleeve that we have underneath it. And this is what this looks like now. You can see that it is neat now, it's no longer rough. So now the next thing is to bring in your trimming, whatever trimming that you want to use on the neckline area and on the sleeve area. Okay, so you can either use trimmings like this. Okay, you're just going to tack it, or use your gum to glue it on the neckline area like this, from front to back, starting from where you have your, remember this is also part of our neckline. So you're going to start from here now, and then you place this and tack it down on the neckline and also on the hem of the sleeve. You can also use a smaller trimming like this. Okay, so if you don't have this, you can use something like this, and then you can just spice it up with your cup chains. Okay, so you just tack your cup chains on this, and then you sew it. This one is sewable, you can easily sew on this, so you can sew it on it like this and then tack your cup chain just to spice it up and make it more beautiful. So I'm going to fix the trimming now and take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so I have attached my trimmings now. This is the off shoulder part of the dress, and this is the part to the shoulder. So you can see the 2 inches that we went down with, and this is the rest of the sleeve. So this is the ruffles that we created. You can see that it's not too much, it's just picking here and there. And this is the pencil part of the sleeve. I also attached my trimming at the hem of the sleeve. So this is what the full view of the dress looks like. You can see how simple and beautiful it is to make this. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel. So you can follow us on all social media. We are on Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok and Facebook at Larry Beatrice. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.